Somewhere on this planet right now, the ground is hot enough to blister an unprotected foot in under a minute. And a few thousand kilometers away, at the bottom of the ocean, the water pressure is somewhere north of 1,000 times what your body feels standing here reading this. An OAA puts it plainly, the ocean alone covers more than 70% of the surface of this planet, and that's before you count the mountain summits, the polar plateaus, and the sliver of empty sky above the last breathable air. Your body is an extraordinary machine, but it was only ever built for a narrow slice of the conditions this planet, and the space just down 5 real, physically documented places and altitudes where the human body stops working, in order from the one that's merely brutal to the one that would end you before you even understood what was happening. Along the way, a few of these places are so hostile that scientists went looking for anything alive down there and came back with nothing at all. A quick note on how to read the countdown: we're not ranking these by how much they'd hurt. We're ranking them by how much warning your body gets before it's too late to do anything about it. And none of this is a guide to survival, a dare, or medical advice. It's the physics and the biology of what these places actually do, sourced from the people who study them, not a suggestion to go find out in person. Number 5. Death Valley, California. On July 10, 1913, the air temperature at Furnace Creek reached 134 degrees Fahrenheit, just under 57 degrees Celsius. The National Park Service still calls it the highest air temperature ever recorded on Earth, though a few meteorologists have long questioned whether the century-old instrument reading was fully reliable. What almost nobody disputes is the ground itself. On July 15, it hit 201 degrees Fahrenheit, just under 94 degrees Celsius, the highest ground surface temperature ever recorded anywhere on the planet. That's 11 degrees short of boiling water measured on open dirt. Ground temperatures run so far ahead of air temperature because bare dark soil absorbs and re-radiates heat far faster than the air moving over it, which is also why officials measure official records from a shaded, standardized station instead of the ground itself. In August 2020, Furnace Creek recorded that, if fully verified, would have been the hottest temperature measured on Earth in nearly a century, according to the Park Service's own account. At that kind of surface heat, bare skin can burn on contact, and the body's main cooling system, sweat, becomes a losing trade. In air this hot and this dry, dehydration sets in faster than most people plan for, and heat exhaustion can turn into life-threatening heatstroke within the same day. Here's the dark comedy of the place. Furnace Creek, sitting that set the world's ground heat record, is also home to the world's lowest elevation golf course, a full 18 holes, watered by ancient underground springs. The hottest dirt on Earth has a back 9. Number 4. The Death Zone, Mount Everest. Above 8,000 meters, the air holds so little oxygen that the human body cannot adapt to it, no matter how long you wait or how well you trained. That altitude has an actual clinical name, the Death Zone. At the summit of Everest, 8,848 meters up, the available oxygen is only a from there. At extreme enough altitude, the air pressure itself drops below the vapor pressure of water at normal body temperature, which means even breathing pure oxygen at that ambient pressure would not be enough to keep a person alive. Doctors describe what happens in blunt terms. An extended stay in the death zone without supplemental oxygen brings a steady deterioration of bodily function, then loss of consciousness, then death. Climbers who summit typically spend as little time as possible above that line because the body cell by cell faster than it can be resupplied. Every experienced climbing team above that altitude runs on bottled oxygen and a strict internal clock, because the death zone doesn't care how many previous summits are on your resume. The dark joke among people who study this altitude is that the death zone is also, technically, one of the most exclusive rooms on Earth, a place only a small, self-selected slice of humanity has ever stood in, on purpose, fully aware of what the name means, purely to see the view. Number 3. The East Antarctic Plateau. On July 21, 1983, a thermometer at the Soviet Vostok Research Station recorded -89.2 degrees Celsius, -128.6 Fahrenheit. For decades, that has stood as the coldest reliably measured surface temperature on Earth. Then, in 2013, NASA-linked researchers went back through decades of archived satellite data and found something colder still. On August 10, 2010, a ridge between two ice domes on the plateau -6.2 degrees Celsius, about -136 Fahrenheit. It has never been certified as the official record because it was measured by satellite, reading the temperature of ice, not a thermometer reading the air, but NASA's own account is blunt about what that patch of ice actually experienced. At those temperatures, exposed human skin can freeze in a matter of minutes, and the air itself is so dry and thin that simply breathing it unprotected damages the lungs. There's no adapting to this either. Every resource imported fuel and imported food, because nothing about the open plateau will keep a human being alive on its own terms for long. Vostok scientists are there partly because the ice beneath the station holds one of the longest, clearest ice core climate records on the planet. Here's the strange part. People have wintered at Vostok anyway, deliberately, for decades, taking shifts through conditions no unprotected human body could survive for more than minutes at a time, because somebody has to keep the instruments running. Number 2, the Challenger Deep Marina Trench. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, submersible dives in 2020 measured a depth of roughly 10,935 meters, more than 10 kilometers straight down. At that depth, the weight of the ocean above presses down at about 1,086 bars, more than 1,000 times the air pressure you're feeling right now, sitting wherever you are. That figure gets put in blunter terms too, about 8 tons of pressure on every single square inch. Nothing flexible survives at that depth. Every vessel that has ever gone down there is built around a thick, rigid sphere, not a flexible suit, because at this depth, flexible simply means failure. Every single human being who has ever reached the Challenger Deep did it sealed inside a submersible engineered specifically to withstand that pressure. That's a machine built because sending an unprotected person down there was never remotely on the table. The first descent happened in a vessel called Trieste in January 1960. Since then, a documented total of 27 people, as of a recent count, have gone down and come back. That's fewer people than you'd guess for the deepest known point on the planet, and every single one of them needed a machine to do it. Number 1, the vacuum of space. There's an altitude about 19 kilometers up called the Armstrong limit. Above it, the air pressure drops so low that water boils at normal human body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius, instead of the 100 degrees it takes at sea level. Your body runs on that same water. Saliva, the fluid around your eyes, the moisture in your lungs, none of it needs heat to start boiling up there. It just needs the pressure to disappear. On December 14, 1966, a NASA test subject named Jim LeBlanc found out exactly what that feels like. He was inside a vacuum. Hose came loose. His suit's pressure dropped from 3.8 pounds per square inch to just 0.1 in about 10 seconds. LeBlanc later said his last conscious memory was feeling the saliva on his tongue start to boil, just before he blacked out. The chamber crew scrambled to repressurize it, and they got him back to a survivable pressure in 87 seconds. He woke up. He recovered completely. The engineer supervising the test later said there was almost nothing in the space medical literature about what happens to a person in that state. That's still largely true. Almost nobody else has ever been exposed this way and lived to describe it. Below the Armstrong limit, without a pressurized suit, the physics is blunt. Loss of consciousness is rapid, and unless pressure is restored within 60 to 90 seconds, the changes to the heart and brain become fatal. Of everything on this list, this is the only one with no cushion at all. No adapting, no gear that buys you hours, no research station you can retreat to. Just a countdown measured in single breaths. Look at all 5 of these together and a pattern shows up. Heat, altitude, cold, pressure, and vacuum. 5 completely different ways to fail, and in every single case the fix isn't a tougher body. It's a machine, a golf course with an irrigation system, a tent rated for -100, a submersible hull, a pressurized suit. Humans haven't out-evolved these places. We've just gotten extremely good at building small, temporary rooms where the outside world isn't allowed in. That's worth sitting with for a second, because it means every single one of us is, at all times, one broken door away from the environment doing exactly what the environment always does. The line between a tourist at the world's lowest golf course and a body in the death zone is not biology. It's engineering and how carefully somebody checked it that morning. Every one of these places has been visited, measured, and in a few cases lived in, which says something about how far people will go just to know exactly where the line is. So here's a genuine question for the comments. If you had to guess which of these 5 would actually be the hardest to prepare for, the one where no amount of planning fully closes the gap, tell us which one and why. Next time, we're stepping away from geography and looking at history's fastest unraveling. 5 empires that ruled most of the known world, and how all 5 of them stopped existing within about a single decade of each other.